The nonfiction writing program at the University of Iowa is the oldest in the country. It's also the best, and that's not me just saying that as the director of the program. It's been the best, I think, for a few decades. The program's reputation nationally is pretty large, and yet ironically on campus it was almost non-existent because we didn't have that space.
Even though they're, very well-known programs, they didn't have a location that people knew about. They weren't really associated with other writing programs going on campus from a physical standpoint. So just getting that physical presence on campus within that writer's neighborhood, I think, was a big step up for them. The site is prominent in that it's directly across the street from the University of Iowa President's residence. When we went in, the site was empty. It hasn't had a building on it since the early 1900s. There used to be a women's dormitory there a long, long time ago. But just the proximity to the President's residence and the fact that the neighborhood is fairly historic and has a unique mix of historic buildings, historic styles, kind of required us to take a deeper look at that to see how we could best blend in with a more contemporary feeling building. One thing we wanted to maintain was the ability for them at some point, if they needed to expand the building. So we did look at taking the program that was given to us and doing a double stack with that, so they have a little more space on the site to grow. Thinking about nonfiction, it's very much about truth and honesty, authenticity, so we wanted to make sure that the materials in the building spoke to that in some way. So we tried to look at a material palette that came from a sense of purity, so looking at very natural materials, or materials that could also weather with time and continue to tell a story about the building as the building aged. So that's why we ended up with weathering steel on the upper part of the building and natural slate tile on the lower portion of the building. And both of those were also trying to make references to different materials that were existing within the neighborhood. So we weren't trying to bring in anything new. We're trying to blend in and sort of have some respect and harmony with the surrounding building.
The fact that we couldn't even display for our current students the work and the achievements of our past students, of the alum that they one day would be, to say, look, you are a part of this community and that's going to be you someday. That had a huge impact on students. And now you walk into the largest space in the building, our lounge, and the most noticeable thing is a wall completely full of hundreds of books from alum. And so current students, it helps them feel part of a community, which is the community of this program.
Well, they had a need for seminar rooms to house, I think it was 16 to 20 people in each, which is super important in the writing process, so they can gather around the table, someone reads their manuscript, and then they can get feedback on it. They also added a digital recording lab within the building for them to take advantage of the need to record stories and get into more of the audio side of storytelling that you see online with Spotify and all the podcasts and everything. They want to be part of that as well. I mean, one thing they were afforded based on the fact that they have their own site now is a place to put an outdoor classroom area. So they do have a little outdoor classroom adjacent to the lounge library space that they can, have people use for class time, or people can go out there and study. There's a shaded area next to a garden, so it's a kind of a tranquil space just off the sidewalk, away from pedestrian traffic, that people can focus, and they just have another flex space they can use during nice weather.
So we've only been in the space 4 months, 5 months maybe. I can't count how many events we've hosted. I mean, I think we're just finding excuses to occupy the space together because we're just so happy in it, and that's really exciting. Our first semester in the building was last semester, and I think there were lots of comments that our current students made about how comfortable the space is and how exciting it was to now have a space. But the one comment that has stuck with me from someone saying, it just feels like there's so much possibility now in the program. And In truth, the program is still the same program, right? The same opportunities for our students exist now as existed just 5 months ago. But the psychic atmosphere of a really good design affects everyone.